Yes, I did, and I actually toyed with the idea of buying a dumb Halloween mask. Then I thought, what mask makes whiny baby shitmen scream and cry more than one like this? And I'm going to wear this for the video, even though nobody's in the office, because you guys should be fucking wearing one of these things. I want to go home and see my mum for Christmas, but knobheads who won't wear them are ruining it for everybody. God damn it, let's talk about Jason Voorhees. So, far away Lucas, we didn't do it at the start, so would you like to now let the audience at home know what the topic of today's special Halloween episode of Wiki Weekends is all about?
Yeah, we are going to be talking about Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th.
Yes, and we're referring specifically to the dedicated Friday the 13th wiki, a link to which you can find below. And we'll start, as we often do, at the beginning, and that starts with obviously the name of the person we're talking about today, which is Jason Voorhees. We have here biographical information, gender, male, status, deceased, which I don't think really matters to Jason, given that he always comes back, but I digress. Cause of death, drowned in a lake, repeatedly hit with a machete, blown to bits by the FBI, dragged into hell, after being stabbed by somebody with a magical dagger, riddled with bullets and blown to pieces by KM-14, incinerated upon being pushed into Earth 2's atmosphere by a guy called Brodski. So they're the times that he's died canonically in the series, and one of those doesn't really make as much sense as the others, does it, Lucas?
No, not really, but it sounds like he's had a fucking rough time.
It sounds like he's had an interesting life, to say the least, but his first death was drowning in a lake. His last death was falling into the atmosphere like Master Chief. Affiliates and family information, so we have known relatives. We have his Pamela Voorhees, his mother, Elias Voorhees, his father, Jessica Kimble, his half-niece, Free Jefferson, his son, unknown, so that means they don't know what really happened to him, and he appears in one of the comics. Diana Kimble, his half-sister, Stephen Freeman, his nephew-in-law, and Stephanie Kimble, his great half-niece. And then we have portrayed by, and Jason's one of those iconic horror villains been played by a lot of people, including but not limited to Ari Lehman, Warrington Gillette, Richard Brooker, Ted White, John Hock, Tom Morga, CJ Graham, Kane Hodder, Ken Kirzinger, Spencer Stump, and Derek Mears. You probably don't recognise any of those names, folks at home, but a couple of them like pretty big horror icons, such as Derek Mears and Kane Hodder. And Kane Hodder's probably the most iconic guy to have played Jason, and he's the guy who gave him, like, his distinctive gait. Then we have first appearance, Friday the 13th, the 1980 original film timeline, and then Friday the 13th, the 2009 reboot timeline, which I don't think got a sequel because it sucked so bad.
Yeah, haven't they just kind of ripped that out as canon as far as I'm aware?
Pretty much, yeah, because it says here his last appearance for the original canon was Freddy vs. Jason. Oh, what a sad, pathetic, wet fart of an ending for such an iconic villain. Anyway, the wiki continues with a quote about Jason. So we have here, there's a legend around here, a killer, buried but not dead, a curse on Crystal Lake, a death curse, Jason Voorhees' curse. They say he died as a boy, but he keeps coming back. Few have seen him and lived. Some have even tried to stop him. No one can. People forget he's down there, waiting. So, Lucas, what do you know about Jason Voorhees? Because there is some deep, deep Jason Voorhees lore contained in this wiki. I'm going to guess at least anyway, because I'm a big fan of the movies. So what's your experience with the character and a franchise as a whole?
I don't know too much about Jason or Friday the 13th, because I'm a big, wimpy boy and don't like to watch horror movies, but I do know...
Lucas, that's fine, because Joe who's a bigger wimpy boys. The people who won't wear fucking masks in Asda, the sad bastards.
I know about, Jason through just how iconic the movies are, and video game appearances like the Friday the 13th game that came out.
Mm-hmm. And then pop culture osmosis has taught you that. Yeah, he's that big scary guy with a machete and a hockey mask. And the fun fact about the hockey mask, which no doubt someone's screaming about in the comments if they're not being drowned out by idiotic anti-maskers, is that Jason Voorhees didn't actually wear the iconic hockey mask until his third movie appearance. And up until that point, he wore a bag over his head, which is really funny.
Jason, Mother is talking to you!
Jason Voorhees is the main antagonist and centerpiece of the Friday the 13th franchise, and the anti-hero of the crossover film Freddy vs. Jason. Yes, he's like the hero in that film. So have you ever watched that film? Because it's kind of amazing how they cross over the two franchises.
No, I've just heard how bad that movie is.
Oh, it is terrible, but Freddy Krueger wants to come back, but It's like set in the 2000s when nobody gives a shit about him. So that's like, the idea behind Freddy Krueger is that he can only come back and live it and haunt people's dreams when people are actively fearful of him. But kids in the 2000s aren't scared of like a guy who murdered a few people in the 1980s. So what he does is he brings Jason back to life and sends him to a neighborhood to like kill people there and then make them think that Freddy Krueger's back.
Oh, no.
And then what the kids do is like, oh no, how do we beat Freddy Krueger? I know, let's use Jason against him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so what they do is they put Jason to sleep by injecting him with drugs and drive him to Camp Crystal Lake where he drowned, thinking that the place where he died will give him the home field advantage. Completely silent, undead, and seemingly unstoppable, Jason is a killing machine. An iconic madman who haunts Camp Crystal Lake and the surrounding area, he is driven to slaughter anyone he encounters by a burning need to avenge the death of his beloved mother, Pamela Voorhees. Jason Voorhees has killed about 161 people over the course of his film career.
I'd say that's quite a lot for a horror villain.
I believe Jason's up there as having one of the highest body counts of any slasher movie villain. And Lucas, there's a couple of sections on this wiki page, and one of them is biography, which scrolls down for about, I don't know, too long, because Jason's been in a lot of movies. So I'm going to cut a long story short and say Jason was a kid who got fucking wrecked. Like he drowned in a lake because inattentive camp counselors were having sex while he was thrown in there by bullies and he drowned.
Oh.
And that's one of the reasons why Jason always attacks people having sex.
Oh.
That's a real thing. And we're going to skip straight to characteristics and killing methods because they sound fun and spooky for Halloween. As there are supernatural and demonic things involved with Jason, it is not known if Jason really even ever had a character or personality. Even his own fucking wiki page is like, Jason has no real personality. He's just a guy who kills people. Although it does say here that he did seem that he must have some residue of his humanity left inside of him, although that would be of a child. That's the only memories he really has. He revered his mother, as she was the only person ever showed him true love. After her death, he constructed a crude altar in the shack where he lived with his mother's head at the centre, to which he placed the victims at the foot of, though it were a human sacrifice, demonstrating they had some beliefs. Ginny Field, knowing the story of him and his mother, used the child persona against him to trap him in order to kill him and protect himself from further harm. Tommy Jarvis, as a child, also used the child persona against him by making himself look like Jason did as a child in order to trap him like Ginny had once done to save her sister. He's all kinds of messed up, is Jason. As a mortal human, Jason had a bizarre sense of humour, shaking the outhouse of one of his victims was in before running away, meaning he once tried to scare someone shitless as they were already taking a shit. Jason also displayed frustration when he couldn't find Chris, tearing apart the barn in irritation and anger. Though he was silent, one could tell that he was an angry, vengeful man as he made countless grunts when he was chasing victims. Once he became one of the undead, Jason lost any semblance of human emotion, except for an everlasting hatred of humanity. After killing his victims, he usually hid the bodies to prevent others from raising the alarm to create more terror when his next intended victims would find it. If Jason had any virtues left, it would be that he never killed children under the age of 13 or pets. And the behind-the-scenes story for that is, I believe it was Kane Hodder, as I mentioned earlier, one of the most iconic actors to have played Jason. For one of the movies, I think Jason Takes Manhattan, there was a scene in the script that called for Jason to kick a dog, and Kane Hodder outright refused to do it. It says Jason is a murderer, but he's not a dick. He would not kick that dog, so they cut that out of the film. Another possible virtue of Jason is shown when he saves Laurie Campbell twice from becoming Freddy Krueger's victim after she saved him from getting killed by the Dream Stalker himself. Though it's not actually known if he saved her on purpose, Jason truly hated Freddy Krueger for tricking and using him. However, in Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, which has to be a comic book because that movie would be too awesome to be made, he was shown to be willing to cooperate with him. In return, Freddy used the Necromonicon to boost his intelligence. And it says here that many of the actors who play Jason have theorised what his motivations may be, although they've never been officially confirmed. Let's go on to the fun stuff, which is always powers and abilities, because, of course, Jason Voorhees has a powers and abilities section. Would you like to guess what the first power of Jason Voorhees is?
I don't know, like the ability to just not die?
That's probably going to be on here, but his first ability is superhuman strength. So in part 2, Jason was shown to have some kind of enhanced human strength. capable of impaling victims with ease, and was capable of breaking out a window with a single shot. He was also capable of crushing someone's head while lifting them, and was later shown throwing a 100+ pound man clean through a window. That's not bad. So he's pretty strong. He's like, you know what, that's Wolverine level. It says here that while his strength fluctuates from movie to movie, a default Jason, I'll use a default Jason, there's like base Hulk. It's like default Jason, in most of his counterparts and incarnations, possesses enhanced human strength capable of stunning, dismembering fully grown normal human beings. He is rarely, if ever, overpowered by normal individuals, unless overthrown by the presence of constricting factors such as chains or boulders. Pain resistance. Jason as a human still has a human personality and does feel pain the same as any human, but shows an exceptional amount of tolerance for it, as shown in Part 3 and Part 4. So he still shows human reactions to being stabbed and slashed. However, he is capable of walking off fatal injuries for a normal human. However, as an undead, Jason no longer responds to pain and can generally function in situations where pain would disable a normal person. His next power is stealth / super speed. You don't think of Jason having super speed, and I certainly don't, so what the fuck's going on here? Jason can seemingly appear near his victims through the means of walking. Oh, so this is trying to explain why, despite the fact he only ever walks, he always appears behind his victim.
Like, yeah, is it one of those of just he appears out of nowhere all the time?
Yeah, he can easily slip in and out of areas undetected. He can swim at incredible speeds, completely unrestricted by water resistance.
Wait, what?
So he's like Aquaman. He can swim at like 100 miles an hour.
How does he?
I want to see that movie.
Like, just because you're undead doesn't mean water resistance isn't a thing. I don't understand.
Lucas, yes it does. Zombies can swim super fast. This is known. Anyway. He can make himself go unnoticed in his surroundings, allowing him to act freely without being noticed, essentially allowing himself to slip into the shadows and reappear behind his victims for a quick and easy elimination. Because it's an old horror movie trope that you don't want to show a monster running because it makes them less scary, even though you think, oh, a 8-foot tall man with a machete sprinting towards you is much scarier. The idea that he's walking very slowly, very menacingly, and will get to you eventually is far more terrifying. Or at least I think so.
Yeah, me too, and I imagine they do the thing where it's like, oh no, we're running away from him, and like they do like a sprint across a forest or something, and then look around and he's right behind them still.
And I like to imagine that as soon as Jason sees people running really fast away from him, he runs as well. When they turn around, starts walking again. Intelligence. Jason is shown to be extremely intelligent and high-functioning, while possessing some tactile sense and strategic planning, despite his hydrocephalic deformities. Oh yeah, because Jason has a weird disease that makes his face all bumpy.
Oh, okay.
Which is why you probably like this image here of him as a child is probably like people going, oh, what's wrong with him? Yeah, is something wrong with him. Yeah, and that's why he was bullied as a kid and thrown into a lake, and why he wears the mask. He lays traps for his victims, as seen in Part 2, and can be seen restraining victims to avoid detection. And he carefully arranges the body of his victims, occasionally using them as blockades or projectiles. His sense of direction and equilibrium is perfect, just like Spider-Man's, as he always is able to go wherever he wants to, usually back to Crystal Lake, even from long distances. He can escape all manner of bonds, and every single one of his kills is unique, and he always finds creative ways to get to his victims. Beyond this, though, his intellectual capacities are unclear and not clarified for the duration of the series, only being shown in his tactical malice towards camp counselors and his never-ending objective to kill anyone that wanders into the territory of Camp Crystal Lake.
The thing is, if he's saying, oh, he's got like 160 kills and every one is unique, do you think like he has periods where he's about to kill someone like, oh shit, I've done that before? He
might do, because, again, this wiki is trying to contextualise why horror movies always feature such bizarre and gruesome kills. Because realistically, if Jason wanted to kill people, he'd just stab them once and walk away, because that'd be the most efficient thing to do. So the fact that they're trying to contextualise why he kills people in such bizarre ways, of like, he does it to show his creativity. Then we have it, Revenant Zombie Physiology. After being resurrected from a lightning bolt strike, caused by Tommy Jarvis stabbing his corpse with a metal rod, Jason was accidentally brought back to life as an undead. But unlike the usual zombies, Jason doesn't want to eat human flesh nor crave anything like usual zombies, but instead, Jason has kept his human personality and kept his former memories intact, meaning he's now just a zombie with intelligence.
Man, that is such a shit way to say he got brought back to life. Is that?
He's actually a zombie, but he's not a real zombie because he's just got his memory. It's like, we wanted to bring this character back and we came up with a bullshit explanation for why. Supernatural strength, though. So after becoming a zombie, Jason's superhuman physical strength has become titanic, and he immediately demonstrated his newfound power by punching right through Tommy's friend's body and gouging out his heart with a single punch. Jason is capable of easily sending his victims flying through the air with a single blow. His feats of strength include, but are not limited to, going through concrete, decapitating someone with a single punch, freeing himself when he was pinned by a fallen tree, and breaking humans in half. Just this line really cracks me up in the way it's written. He can break humans in half as well as rip limbs from their bodies using just a small portion of his new zombie strength. Another example is he once tossed a man with a single thrust, ripped his arm off in the process, and then proceeded to decapitate 3 people with a single machete slash.
Ooh.
He caused a girl's head to be smashed through metal, forming her facial expression, was able to twist a girl's head off without effort. Immortality. After becoming a revenant zombie in part 6, Jason has become functionally immortal, which means he does not age, and physical injuries and illness that will kill a normal human would eventually heal and will never truly affect him. Regeneration. As a zombie, he is able to regenerate any damage. Oh, it says here that he's changing state of deformity, so they're even trying to contextualise why the makeup for actors looks different between movies. It says here that his deformity can be attributed to a constant state of regeneration, like Deadpool.
Ah, right, yeah.
This might be one of the strongest wiki entries we've done so far. Maybe not in terms of content, but for how well it contextualises all the stupid tropes in the series.
Yeah, it does a very good job of
Everything so far.
making stupid inconsistencies canon.
This regeneration, however, is not perfect, as Jason still possesses an undead, desiccated appearance of exposed bones and deteriorating tissue. Technically being undead, his body is not affected by existing detrimental contaminants. He has complete immunity to all kinds of poison, virus, disease, bacteria, etc. However, it is not fully known now that he can be sedated, as proven when Freddy had possessed Freeberg and was able to render him unconscious with 2 syringes. So, resurrection. When Jason is defeated, in big air quotes, as shown at the end of part 6, he is kept in a place, hibernating state. You might want to give that one a quick do-over, whoever writes these wikis, because that's written very awkwardly. It says here that he just goes into a state of hibernation, and that which allows him to recover his strength. That's really scary. He just goes to sleep and gets better. Supernatural durability. As an undead, Jason now has beyond superhuman durability, and is able to endure and tank virtually anything thrown at him, from taking a revolver shot to the head, or even surviving a motorboat propeller to the face. Teleportation. Jason seemingly possessed this ability in Friday the 13th Part A, but it has not been confirmed. There is an even more powerful form of Jason, known as Uber Jason. And that's when Jason is taken aboard a spaceship, seemingly killed, but then resurrected by nanobots, which give him a metal appearance, but basically just turn him into a robot. And his abilities in that form are 9 invulnerability, so due to the nanobites fully resurrecting and upgrading him, using an unknown metal substance around the majority of his body. He is now completely immune to bullets and other such things. And it says here that the only thing that seemingly hurt him was being ejected from the ship and crashing into the Earth 2 and being burned up in the atmosphere. Even then, it's not clear if he died or if he survived or not. And then we have incomprehensible strength. I like that phrasing. The Marvel Wiki should get on that, incomprehensible strength. Already possessing both superhuman and supernatural strength, in his new form, dubbed Uber Jason, he has dramatically increased and newfound abilities capable of punching down a steel beam door with a single punch. Vacuum space survivability due to nanotechnology upgrades. I love that. Nanotechnology upgrades on a fucking horror villain. He can survive in the vacuum of space itself. And then there is a list of all the weapons that he's used, and fucking hell, mate.
Oh my god.
There's a lot. So I was going to go these in all the movies he's appeared in, but we have ice pick, barbed wire, a tree, hammer, a machete, of course, spear, knife, pitchfork, meat cleaver, knitting needle, pitchfork, wrench, spear gun, fuse box, fire poker, his own strength, an axe, hacksaw, scalpel, double-sided axe, 3 separate knives, a cleaver, a harpoon, a spear, a corkscrew, throwing someone from a great height, an entire car, a double-sided axe again, a garden claw, a fence post, glass, the walls of an RV, a hunting knife, a dart, his bare hands, superhuman strength, a knife, a tent peg, a sleeping bag, a tree again, water, a sickle, a party horn, 2 axes this time, bare hands, a tree trimming saw, a guitar, a sauna rock, a harpoon, a control panel, a radio antenna, a syringe, a steam pipe, sewage, a wall mirror, a wrench, possession, an autopsy probe, a metal table, razor, superhuman strength, his bare hands, and his elbow, jungle gym, rake, scalpel, ground, shovel, arms, fingers, knife sharpener, pistol, locker door, a human head, a diner door, a diner counter, a deep fryer, a barbecue skewer, a bed, a pipe, fire, electricity, a wall bracket, proxies, Freddy's bladed claw, a machine gun, a machete, hook, counter, chains, noose pole, liquid nitrogen, and surgical tools.
Fucking hell, they weren't lying about that in being creative.
Yeah, and then we can end, as we often do, Lucas, on a little bit of trivia about Mr. Jason, if you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
He says here that Jason, so I was incorrect earlier, he has the most kills of any horror film slasher. His total number of kills is at least 151. So that contrasts slightly with the thing at the start. He said 161. Jason was originally never meant to be the killer after part 2, as they would give it 2 movies per one story, but they changed their mind and ended up keeping Jason. Halloween was going to do the same, which is why there's no Michael Myers in Halloween 3. Yeah, so I think after part 2, they were going to replace Jason, but he was so popular they brought him back.
Right, okay.
Kane Hodder has played Jason more times than anyone else. Tommy Jarvis was the first person to ever actually kill Jason. As such, he is one of Jason's most hated enemies. His death won the Golden Chainsaw Award.
Wait.
In Dead Meat's Friday the 13th, the final chapter kill count. I think that's a YouTube channel where they just have, here's every death in a horror movie.
Oh, okay.
Jason can apparently survive any damage by switching his souls with like another body. Well, that's terrifying.